Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to thank Jurriaen for his time today for our first INCON Learning session of 2026. So Jurriaen is the president and COO of MCI Group, and he has a lot of experience in our events industry, but he is also a great leader. And so today he's going to share his experiences with us. And I know he's also an avid reader. So he learns a lot from some of the really good leadership professionals out there who are writing on this topic. So I'll hand over to Jurriaen, and he is going to speak. He has a few slides as well. And we will take questions throughout if anything burning you want to ask Jurriaen, but otherwise we will have a Q&A at the end of the session. And if you want to share this with your colleagues afterwards, we will be sharing it on the INCON Learning webpage next week. So over to you, Jurriaen.
Thank you, Angela, for this introduction, and hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. I wanted to talk about leadership. It's something I've been working on all my life, but I tried to put something together recently. It's a fairly new presentation. It says November 25. That's when I first put my thoughts on leadership in writing. And yeah, what can I say? I mean, so much has been written about leadership. It's not possible really to cover this fully in 59 minutes and 59 seconds. So I'll concentrate on some of the main lessons in leadership that I learned, and I still learn to apply, because it's a journey. And I'll try to make it relevant to what we do every day in our jobs, in our companies, in our industry. And as you will see, a lot of it is about being human. So this is my agenda. I want to talk you through a few definitions of leadership. I think that's going to be useful, and that is as stated by people who know. I will highlight the very diverse elements that make up leadership. I'll stand still and spend a bit more time on the concept of what makes a leader from an emotional intelligence perspective, because I think it's so relevant to us and to what we do. We're in a people's industry, right? And then I'll walk you through some leadership and management models, and I'll show you a list of top tips accompanied with do's and don'ts, simply because it's kind of nice to have some practical ideas, something that you can use every day to make your concrete decisions and improve your own leadership style, one step at a time. And then we'll close with Q&A, and a conclusion, but do feel free to interrupt, put up your hand, or just unmute if you have questions about what we're going through, okay? This should not take more than about 45 minutes, no stress. So, some definitions. Very smart people have said very smart things about leadership. So let's have a look at a few, right? Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. And this highlights the execution of vision as central to leadership. This is Warren Bennis. Warren Bennis is often referred to as the father of leadership. He focused on the behavior of the actual leaders and the dynamics of organizations. And he argued that leadership is a learnable skill based on self-awareness, on vision, and on integrity. So Warren Bennis, big man, very important point of view. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Here's another one. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Has a nice ring to it, right? This emphasizes vision, action, and guidance. This is John Maxwell. He's also recognized as an authority on leadership. He's written over 70 books, several of them bestsellers. And as you can see from his definition, leadership is about walking the talk and showing the way. Important elements. How about this one? Leadership is lifting a person's vision to higher heights, raising performance to higher standards, and building personality beyond normal limitations. This focuses on growth, on performance and personality. I think many people will have heard of Peter Drucker. He taught at several universities and business schools, notably New York University and Stern Business School. And he helped establish the Drucker School of Management, where he taught until his death in 2005. He was considered the inventor of modern management. Can you imagine? Focusing on the human aspects of business and putting an emphasis on employee motivation, on innovation, and making organizations more effective and more responsive. And he created the concept of management by objective. So Peter Drucker, big man, very famous in all management literature. Here's another face that many people will have seen. He says leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. And this defines leadership through responsibility and service. And this is Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek is quite a popular speaker and author. He created the Optimism Company. You can enjoy his podcasts on the topic. I must have listened to well over 100 of these podcasts. It's really, really nice to listen to. He's known for his work on leadership and on business management, and he became famous with his concept of start with why. So don't start with what or how. What does the company do or how does the company do it? But why does the company do it? Why inspires people? It involves communicating a core purpose or a core belief to connect with customers and employees, on an emotional level, right? He's worked a lot with the military and he's learned a lot from working people there, being in charge, being in command. Then what else do we have? This is one of my favorites. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. So make them better as a result of your presence and make sure that it lasts in your absence. And this focuses on the lasting influence and development. This is Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl Sandberg became famous as the COO of Meta, Facebook before. She published books and she's an advocate for women in leadership. I particularly like this definition as it's about bringing out the best in people and making sure that it lasts. I find that very inspirational. Personally, I have a management mantra that goes, get them the tools, get them the vision, and get out of the way. It's a bit in line with what Jack Welch, the famous CEO of General Electric in the 80s and 90s, what he said. He said, make your people feel 12 feet tall. That's how you get the most out of your people. That's leadership. Okay, one more. Effective leaders are alike in one crucial way. They all have a high degree of emotional intelligence. This includes self-awareness, empathy, and relationship management. So this is Daniel Goleman. He became famous by popularizing the concept of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness, empathy, relationship management are definitely cornerstones of leadership. He argued that EQ, as it's called, can be more important than IQ for success in life. I actually want to dive a little bit deeper into this one. So under the header, what makes a leader? There is an article that was written by Daniel Goleman, and it's called What Makes a Leader? It's considered one of the most popular and influential pieces ever published by Harvard Business Review. It was originally published in 1998 and later included in HBR's 10 must-read series, which feature seminal articles that have had a lasting impact on management thinking. Now, this article introduced the concept of emotional intelligence as a critical factor in effective leadership. It argues that EI is more important than IQ or technical skills for distinguishing outstanding leaders from average ones. So I would like to look a little bit at the 5 aspects of emotional intelligence as defined by Goleman. The first one is about self-awareness, knowing one's emotions, strengths, weaknesses, your drives, your values, and your goals, and the impact that this has on others. Your self-awareness is very, very important. I mean, we must all have seen people who were leading, but they were not very self-aware. They didn't quite know how they came across. It's an important aspect for successful leadership. Another one is self-regulation. Once you're aware of yourself, if you can control or redirect disruptive emotions and impulses, you're in control. You can regulate yourself. You're more stable and more present as a leader, and your mood swings don't affect the whole team, because believe me, they do. The third one is motivation, being driven to achieve for the sake of achievement. That's the reason. We really want to do this. I'm motivated by this. So that's why I'm doing this. Motivation. Motivation is very important for a leader, and it is infectious. Then empathy, I mentioned it before, considering other people's feelings, especially when making decisions. Don't be a robot. Don't go about the things just by the rules. Have empathy. As a leader, you have to consider the decisions you're taking and what the effect is going to be on the people that you are leading. And the fifth pillar, the last one, is social skill. Managing relationships to move people in the desired direction. You know, I spent time in the army, and I remember my captain teaching me, if you have to point at your stripes to get something done, you've already lost. It's the social skill. It's moving people in the right direction that makes the difference. So consider these 5 pillars, and if you want to try and find this article online and read it, it's a really, really good article, and I think that it defines very, very nicely what makes a leader. I also wanted to talk a little bit about leadership and management models. It's nice to be a bit practical, to think about models that have evolved over the years, that have become famous because they talk about leadership and about leaders and how they are self-aware and how they lead. So the first one is the Johari window. The Johari window. What is this Johari window? It was developed by Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham in 1955 already. It's a psychological tool that helps individuals understand their relationships with themselves and with others. The model divides self-awareness into 4 quadrants. The open area, what you and others know about you. The blind spot, it's what others know about you, but you don't even know this about yourself. Then there's the hidden area, that's what you know about yourself, but others don't know this about you. And then the unknown area. This is the area that neither you nor the others know about, but it still influences your leadership. So it's quite important. Let me walk through a few things here. Let me see. So it's a framework for professional leadership, and the model defines 4 styles based on balance of directive behavior, the telling, and supportive behavior, the coaching. You can see this a little bit in the graph. There's supportive behavior on the vertical and directive behavior on the horizontal axis. So the first quadrant I'm talking about is the one on the bottom right-hand corner, which is called directing. This is high directive and low supportive. The leader gives clear instructions and closely supervises. And they do this when it's best for team members who are inexperienced or lack confidence. You know, a lot of instructions, closely supervising, but not supportive as in do it yourself. We move to the second one, that's coaching. And there you have highly directive and high supportive behavior. This is where the leader explains his decision and encourages input and motivates people. And this is best for those who have some competence but still need encouragement. So that's a good way of managing those people. The third quadrant is called supporting, which is low directive and high supportive. Leaders facilitate and support decision making, but it's best for team members who are competent but maybe lack confidence. They know how it works, but they're not always sure that they do this right. So that's when you are low in your directive and high in your supportive attitude. And the fourth quadrant is delegating, where it's low directive and low supportive. The leader trusts the team to take responsibility, and it's best for highly competent and motivated individuals. So you see how you can walk through this window. It's a very nice way of, in your mind, dividing your team perhaps into 4 quadrants and approaching every person in just the right way. Okay. Here's another one that's always nice to consider, is what I call striking the right balance. You know, how much authority do you apply? Who takes decisions and who owns the results? This model makes you think about, how much authority you apply as a leader. Who takes the decisions? Are you as a leader taking decisions, or the people that you are leading and growing? And then who owns the results? Because as you can see from the arrow in the bottom right corner, it's a balancing act between direction and coaching. If you direct and you tell people what to do, can you hold them accountable for the result if you told them to do it? If you coach, do they then fully benefit from the knowledge that you have, but you didn't tell them? So you have to decide where you place yourself and consider the pros and cons of each approach. Do you do more coaching? Do you do more direction? What are the consequences, the pros and cons of each of the two approaches? This is more self-reflection. Look at your situation and decide for yourself how you need to approach the team. But remember, if you tell people a lot, you may be responsible for the results. And if you coach them, they may take all the decisions, but they might not have benefited from everything that you know. Balancing act. Here's another model that I like a lot, is the RACI matrix, also quite popular. You know, it's a popular responsibility assignment tool. It's used in project management and in organizational design. It clarifies roles and responsibilities for tasks or deliverables in a project or even within a process. So why would you use the RACI matrix? You use it because it clarifies the roles of every person involved. It avoids confusion about who does what. It improves communication as well. It ensures that stakeholders know what their involvement is, and it prevents bottlenecks because it defines accountability clearly. So let me walk you through the model. The R stands for responsible. Here in this column, you would write the person or persons who actually do the work to complete the task. They are responsible for doing it. Then there are the people who are accountable, the person who owns the task and makes the final decision. There should ideally only be one accountable person per task. You have the consulted model. So the consulted people are people who provide input or expertise before the task is completed. But they don't decide, they don't get to say whether it's right or wrong. They provide their expertise. And then informed. People who need to be kept updated on the progress or the decisions, but they're not part of the doing or even the discussion. You know, just inform them. Now the RACI matrix also exists in a slightly different format. It could be the RACI matrix with an X at the end. And in some companies, that's very useful because that adds a fifth column where you say excluded. People who are specifically not involved. In some companies, it's very important to tell Mike, John, or Mary, no, you're not part of this project. Stay out. You know, so RACI or RACI, you can play with both. It's very, very useful. Let's see, I have one more. I want to talk about leadership versus management because yes, they're different, but you know, although leadership and management are often presented as two sides of a coin, they should really be considered as connected and overlapping. To say that one is better than the other is, it's selling both short. So let's look at the two columns here. You know, leadership. In leadership, you say the core focus is on inspiring, motivating, and setting the vision for the future. Whereas in management, it's more about organizing, planning, and controlling resources to achieve objectives. There's a clear difference, but you can see how it connects. When you talk about orientation, leadership is future-oriented. It focuses on change, on innovation, and long-term direction. Whereas management would typically be focused on present-oriented, focuses on processes, systems, and short-term results. What's the difference in their key activities? Well, leadership, setting a compelling vision and strategy, inspiring and empowering tonal change. That's the thing that the leadership does. Whereas management is more about planning and budgeting, organizing tasks and allocating resources, monitoring performance, solving operational issues, really day-to-day stuff, right? And then the skills, which skills for which activity. Leadership is more about emotional intelligence and communication, where management is probably more about analytical thinking, process optimization, risk control, efficiency. So they're both complementary. You know, you need both of them to get a great organization. A great organization doesn't really need both of them. But as you can see, there's overlap. And some good managers are also excellent leaders, and some excellent leaders are also very good at management. So understand the difference, but see how they're connected. A few top tips for leadership. I want to give you a little bit of a practical angle here, some tips to consider. Now, you don't have to learn this by heart, okay? It will definitely help you if you sit down and give this some thought to each one of these tips and you ask yourself, how am I doing on this one? Is this my strength? Is this something I need to work on? You can also ask a friend, a family member, or a trusted colleague to give you feedback on some of these points. It may create your insights in your strengths and in your areas of growth. So do consider them one at a time, and sometimes ask someone, what do you think? Is this good? Is this not good? Where can I improve? Okay, just a sort of a checklist. Vision. Vision. It provides a clear and compelling direction for your team. So what you do is you communicate goals, you inspire with purpose, and you align actions. That's the do. But the don'ts are, don't be vague, don't change direction frequently, don't ignore the long-term impact. Vision is really about a clear and compelling direction for your team. So ask yourself, do I do this? How good am I at this? Do I do the do's and do I avoid the don'ts? Vision. How about strategic thinking? Strategic thinking, see the bigger picture and connect daily work to long-term goals. That's strategic thinking. Now, when you do this, you prioritize wisely, you anticipate trends, you challenge assumptions, very important. Don't just assume things, but challenge them. Keep thinking about that long-term goal and see the bigger picture. And don't get stuck in the weeds, as they say. Don't get stuck in the details. Don't ignore data. Data is very important. Data takes care of opinions. You may drift to one side or the other, but data will give you honest and real basis to take decisions. And don't react impulsively. It's all about keeping your cool, looking at the bigger picture, and connecting the daily work with the long-term goals. How about self-awareness? Understand your emotions, triggers, and strengths, because this builds authenticity and trust. So reflect regularly, seek feedback from people, know your limits, be self-aware about those things. Self-awareness, very important. Don't ignore emotional reactions. Don't resist feedback. Don't pretend to know everything. You don't, and it doesn't work. Have the self-awareness to pause, to be thoughtful. Courageous leadership really is a combination of a deep awareness of who you are and leading with discipline, with accountability, but also with humility, and stay self-aware. What else do we have? Empathy. Empathy. Tune into other people's feelings and perspectives to lead with compassion. Compassion. So listen actively, acknowledge emotions, and adapt your approach. Not only listening, but also adapting. Show people that you have heard what they say, what they're concerned about, and work with that. But don't dismiss concerns. Don't interrupt people when they're telling you, maybe in a very emotional way, that something is wrong or that something needs attention. And don't assume that you know best. You can learn from people, even from people with very emotional reactions. There may be important elements in there that you need to listen to. Integrity. Integrity is very important. Lead with honesty and consistency in values and in actions. And I cannot stress the values part enough. You need to know what is important to you, who are you, how you show up, what drives you. If you understand that and you're consistent in your values and your actions align with this, that is how you display integrity. So keep your promises, admit mistakes, and always model ethical behavior as a leader. And what you shouldn't do is don't play favorites with people. Don't bend the rules when it's convenient, and don't avoid accountability. If you're the leader, you're accountable, right? Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, he said, in matters of form, go with the flow, but in matters of principle, stand like a rock. And I think that is an exemplary way of giving voice to your values and let your values influence how you behave, right? Lead with honesty and consistency in values and actions. And then there's presence. So be visible, be engaged, and be approachable. Leaders should not sit in an ivory tower. They should be approachable. They should be visible. So show up consistently, be available, listen with intent. Not just listen, but listen with intent. Like, I want to hear what you're saying. Don't hide behind emails. Don't appear distracted trying to do 2 or 3 things when you're engaging with people. And don't avoid tough conversations. A leader also has tough conversations when it's necessary. I had a professor of mine in my MBA program, Jean-Jacques Vellino, and he told us, if you want to be a diamond, you walk like a diamond, you talk like a diamond, you dress like a diamond. Be that diamond, Show up in the right way, the presence, be consistent, and be that person. I thought it was always good advice. What else do we have? Influence. Motivate and guide others without relying on authority. What I said earlier, don't point on the stripes on your shoulder. Motivate and guide others without relying on authority. You do this by building trust, by sharing credit, and by leading by example, obviously. Whereas you don't want to manipulate, you don't want to get into micromanagement, and you don't want to demand compliance. No, don't demand compliance. Inspire people and yeah, get them motivated and guide them without relying on the authority. It's important for a leader to have an emotional balance. Imagine you have a challenge ahead of you, and imagine you could take out all the emotions from your team and turn them into robots. What would you do to make them perform best? Now, if you put the emotions back in, how would that change your thinking? If you go through that mental exercise, you can see how important the emotions of your people are. So manage stress and maintain composure under pressure. That's your emotional balance. So practice mindfulness, take breaks, model calm behavior. Taking breaks and mindfulness is very, very useful. So don't overreact, don't suppress your emotions, don't ignore burnout signs. Leaders do burn out too. It's not just the people, everybody burns out. And if that starts to happen, that starts to impact your emotional balance, and your team will feel it. Your team is very attuned to how the leader feels and how the leader behaves. So emotional balance is very important. One more. Resilience. The resilient leader bounce back from setbacks and help others to do the same. Yeah. Stay optimistic, learn from failure, support your team. Who was it again that said, was it Nelson Mandela who said, I never lose, I either win or I learn. I thought that was clever, so stay optimistic, learn from failure, support your team. Don't dwell on mistakes. Don't isolate yourself, don't ignore morale. Morale is very important. So many exercises have been done where people who are motivated and have good morale perform much better than a similar group with similar skills who have less morale. It's been tested many times, and it's something to keep in mind. So keep the morale high. Okay, what else can I show you? I want to talk a little bit about leadership development. Okay, how do you develop a leader? So learn from different angles. You grow faster when you reflect on yourself, get honest feedback from others, and try things out in real situations. And like I said, with the do's and don'ts, go out there, try it a little bit, and ask a trusted person, a family member, a colleague, how am I doing? What's my strength? What's my weakness? Get your feedback and learn from different angles. Also share your story. Talking about your life and experiences helps people to understand you and build trust. Remember the Johari window about knowing yourself and what others know. You don't have to go full out, but be a human being, connect a little bit, tell them a bit about your story. How did I get here? Why am I leading the team? What did I have to do to come to this position? It makes you credible, it makes you human, makes you understandable. Be open about your feelings. Don't be a robot. Don't let me give people the impression that you never feel anything. That doesn't work. It's okay to talk about your fears or your hope. Be honest, and it creates stronger connections. But remember, we do want to project optimism. We do want to project that we know where we're going. We bounce back from setbacks, so that's important. So you have your feelings, but you know how to manage them. And then push yourself safely. I insist on that. Try things that feel a bit scary, but in a supportive environment. That's how your confidence grows. That's how you learn new things. You say, hey, wow, I didn't know I could do this. And then you did, And finally, build a strong group vibe. Teams win together. That's very, very good. A good learning space, online or in person, should feel safe, friendly, and open, so everyone can learn and change together. A good group vibe is so important. It's part of like a company culture. And good leaders create a good group vibe and feel supported by it. Okay, what's next? What's next? Structured self-reflection, that's important. Set aside time to examine values, motivations, and behavior patterns for true growth. It's what I said, and it's what when I told you that example of Thomas Jefferson. Think about what is really, really important for you. In matters of form, go with the flow. In matters of principle, stand like a rock. That's what he thought, and it was how he wanted to act. So know what is important for yourself. Think about this. Maybe write it down. Journaling helps, and hold on to that. That's the basis of your being a leader. Seek feedback, like I mentioned before. Ask for honest feedback from peers and share your story to build authenticity and relationships. Leaders are not out there untouchable. They're connected. They're in the midst of it. They're authentic. They're real people, and they build and maintain their relationships. And yeah, practice vulnerability and experimentation. Openly share fears and try new leadership behaviors in safe environments to develop trust and growth. And if you think about the Johari window and how you can support both teams that are inexperienced, but also the ones that are experienced, those who have the skills but don't know for sure, and those who finally dare to take an approach. People need different ways of leadership. Experiment with that. See if you can do this. Different teams, different styles. And do it in a safe environment, learn from this, and grow. Then commit to continuous growth. That's a very important message, I think. Join emotional and social learning programs and build long-term habits for sustained leadership development. And some people, if they want to do this, they take a coach. Some people sign up on programs on business schools. I'm based in Geneva, Switzerland, and I know that at the IMD, a very famous business school in Lausanne, not far from Geneva, they run an excellent leadership development program where indeed they take people offsite and they make them go through this whole process of self-development, self-discovery, working in a group, getting honest feedback. It's a real journey. They say it's an emotional journey. It's a social journey because you get a lot of feedback and all these people expose themselves, learn from each other, and they come back from a program like that as a changed human being. It's really, really useful to reflect on who you are and getting feedback, maybe in a group, maybe in a professional environment. So consider that. Consider that if you want to seriously step up and become a better leader, maybe take a professional development plan on this. You've been awfully quiet. You had no questions. So either I'm extremely clear or maybe I went very fast and you wanted to ask some questions, but now is a good time. If you want to put up your hand or unmute yourself, please do feel free. Angela, I know you're connected, so maybe you see something happening in the text box or anywhere.
Nothing yet on the text, but I'd just like to thank you very much. That was wonderful. You touched on so many relevant topics to us all. I have a question for you while we're waiting for everybody else. What was your most challenging leadership issue that you had in your professional career to date?
Oh, that's an excellent question, Angela, as usual. Excellent question. I guess I've been around for a while, so leadership it's been a job for a long time. I think in my early days, having to fire someone was hard because it's very personal and it's emotional. And you're very much in tune with what the emotions that the person is going through when you have to do that. But at the same time, you have to think of the well-being for the team and the company. You've thought through your decision many, many times. You've looked at all the aspects. You want to make sure that you come up with a fair plan. Some people take it better than others, and especially when it is not so easy, that's a hard discussion to have. I still find it difficult, but it's yeah, that's something that helps you grow. That this part of the leadership. Don't be afraid to take harsh decisions. Think of the well-being for the team. You're responsible for people. We're people culture, but people are all the people, not just one individual. That's very, very important.
Thanks, Jurriaen. Does anybody else have a question for Jurriaen? You're welcome to put on your camera and speak, or you can put it in the chat or raise your hand. Does anybody have any questions?
Someone once asked me, so how do you learn about this stuff? I mean, of course, but learning by doing. I've done a lot of courses, a lot of programs I followed. I had some excellent bosses myself. I also like to read. One of the best books I read, Be Excellent at Anything. It's not so much a leadership book. It's a book about self-development. And it's really good. 4 sections. Each section is about 3 chapters. It's a whole organization that put this together. It's not so easy to get anymore because it's always sold out. That was my experience. But I loved it. It tells you about how you are at your best. It tells you about how your mind can be influenced by situations and try to stick truthful and be the right person, take the right decisions in a balanced way. That's as a personal development. I had another one, and that's for our industry. I think so interesting. This is my favorite Bible, I would almost say. This is from David Meister. He used to teach at Harvard Business School. I think he still runs some professional, support if he's still operational because he might be retired. This is not a new book. This book must be 15, 20 years old. Managing the Professional Service Firm. And you learn a lot about our type of companies where we don't sell goods, we sell services. And he explains it a bit like your old uncle would explain you something in a very nice way, very accessible way. He talks you through sales, target setting, managing teams, managing clients, expectations, how companies evolve. In leadership, this is a very good Bible to have if you work in a service-oriented company, a professional service firm, like we do when we work in the meetings and events industry. I have a conclusion, Angela, if there's nobody else.
Yeah, anybody else with a question for Jurriaen? Jurriaen, I just have one more, and it's regarding intercultural management. So how do you deal with the different cultures that are in MCI, and how do you need to adjust your leadership styles depending on who you're managing?
Again, a very, very good question. As you ask specifically in MCI, we are indeed 34 countries around the world, so many different cultures. The first thing that happens if we grow, we have two ways of growing. We either, establish a new office in a new country. That would be a new cultural endeavor, or we would merge with another organization that already exists. In both cases, we are selective about the sort of people that we're dealing with. The culture of the people, their values are very important. So if you have that in common, you have common ground to build on. And then, of course, although people in the Middle East or in Asia or in America are very different from people in Europe, and even within those regions, within all those regions, there are differences. What you typically look for is what you have in common, not what separates you. So you look for common values, common principles, common goals, common dreams, and you take it from there. And then indeed, people are different and they have different styles of working, but focus on the things you have in common. That's always been the bridge to build connections with different cultures.
Super, Jurriaen. Thank you so much. And does anybody on the call have any leadership tips that you'd like to share yourself? You can put it in chat or you can put on your camera as you like. Otherwise, we will.
Yeah, while people do this, I just conclude with one more comment.
Mm-hmm.
This, I think, is the most simple, maybe most human way of capturing what I talked about. It's leadership is about being aware of who you are. Who are you as a person and how you show up, with your moods, with your emotions, with your hopes, with your dreams, with your fears, with your doubts. Be aware of who you are and how you show up. That's the basis for good leadership. So that's what I would recommend everybody. If you walk into a team, walk into an office, walk into a situation, you're the leader, just be aware. Who are you and how do you show up? And that should really do the trick. So thank you everybody for having taken the time to listen to this. And I hope that there's here or there a little nugget of wisdom that you can use for your own work.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jurriaen. So just before you leave, we do have one question from Fatima Mohammed, and she said, I have one question, please, if you may, how to evaluate myself as a leader as accurately as possible?
It's a good one. And I think I would refer back to what I said earlier. Try out some of this and do ask for feedback. The first thing that you need is feedback because you don't always see everything about yourself. And remember the Johari window, things that are visible to others and not to yourself, or things that you think you're doing and that others don't even notice. So feedback is a very, very good way to do it. Ask it from people who will give you an honest answer. Keep in mind that if you ask as a leader, people who work for you, there may be some influence of he or she is my boss. Let's measure my words. Make sure that you get feedback from people who have nothing to lose. That's where you get the honest feedback. And in different cultures, sometimes people are more indirect. Sometimes it helps if you're a family member, they can be a brother or sister, can be horribly direct. It's good people to know. Parents, sometimes they mean the best to you, but they might still want to raise you higher. So get feedback from people around you, different angles. And that should give you the first indications of where you do well and where you can do even better.
Super. Thank you so much, Jurriaen. That's fabulous. And you have a lot of very positive feedback there in the chat.